Space, right. But 10 years ago, they were all just one bundle, and now you can't do that. Space is exploding. There's more space work out there right now than there is aerospace work, which is staggering if you think about all the airplanes and fighter jets. Blue Origin, SpaceX, they're the two major players. They're putting the rockets in the air, but there's companies like Firefly out there, United Launch Alliance. I mean, we can't get enough satellites in the air fast enough.
Diversification, big deal, always been with mold making. It's smart to not only have one customer in one industry, but there's also diversification of even transitioning away from mold making. And I've seen that be a trend, actually the past 10 years. It was brought to my attention about aerospace work and aerospace tooling and the connections between what a traditional plastic injection mold maker, their capabilities and what they know, how that somewhat easily translates into that world. Something not many people think about. Is that something, tell me about that transition for Prospect.
We didn't have a lot of options. In 2003, our two largest housewares customers, Rubbermaid and Hoover, and our two largest automotive customers, Ford and General Motors, said, we're moving all of the tooling to China. There was no warning. There was no, hey, we're going to help you out. They just left. We decided to go find something else and not hope they came back, like a lot of tool shops did. It took us about 6 months, and we found aerospace and realized that it wouldn't be that giant of a step to transition to aerospace. By 2007, it was 30% of our business. Now it's 90% of our business.
Wow. What was the hardest part of making that transition?
The hardest part of the transition is the standards are so much more stringent in aerospace. So whereas ISO 9000 is pretty standard in the mold making industry, not that difficult to achieve. ISO or AS 9100D, which is the aerospace standard, is significantly more difficult. I mean, it took a team of 3 people and 6 figures in money in 2003 for us to become AS 9100 certified. That was the biggest hurdle back then, by far. Once we had that, it's a machine shop. We're building things.
Did you have to outsource that? Like get a consultant to help work through that process?
We did. We actually put our vice president of engineering in charge of it, and he came back and said, we need someone from the outside to audit us. And that gentleman still is our auditor after 22 years. So anytime we have a problem or there's an update, we bring Sean in to work with the VP of engineering, is now the president of the company, and he and Brandon together just work through it. But it is most companies will hire someone from the outside to help them.
Yeah, and you're talking about that. That's also, it's not just money, it's time, right? Because people, it seems to me, the more talk there is about diversification, I think people underestimate how difficult it is. Just because you build a plastic injection mold doesn't mean you can do everything.
It is money and time, no doubt, but the bigger thing is the standards are so significant. There's so much that the experts, they live it and breathe it every day. So we may read a clause and it could take us weeks to figure out, where he knows the clause and he's like, this is all you have to do. So it's more because those experts understand the standard than, because the standard is thousands of pages long.
That's a nightmare.
It is a nightmare.
All right,
but once you have it, you basically just every 2 years you have to go through a re-audit. But as long as you don't change what you're doing, you'll be perfectly fine. I mean, we've never come close to losing it. So the hardest hurdle is getting it. Once you have it, maintaining it isn't that difficult. It costs time and money, but it isn't difficult.
Did you have a big celebration when you finally got it?
No, we should have. Yeah. Now that we look back, I think we all just had a giant sigh of relief and went and slept for a couple days.
So let's go back a little bit.
Okay.
I want to talk a little bit about what is the difference. Can you run down like a plastic injection mold and the resin transfer molding? Like what are the major differences or the similarities that make it an easier transition to enter that world?
The similarity is that it's a mold that you're injecting a resin into to make a thermoplastic part. With injection molding, an automotive car part or a trash can or a part for a vacuum cleaner. Whereas the carbon fiber or resin transfer, it's a much stronger material. The resin actually is thinner. You have to draw a vacuum. That's the number one difference, is the vacuum is required, and that changes everything. With an injection mold, there's a million moving pieces. You can't have that in the resin transfer mold. But the technology, if you were to look at one of each on the table, you wouldn't be able to tell which is which.
On the outside.
On the outside, they look exactly. It's all on the inside. Yeah. It wasn't that difficult. We had the machinery already was good enough. It's not like we had to go buy new equipment that was tighter tolerance. It's the same as the the automotive or houseware or any other injection molding industry.
All right, so let's move to space manufacturing. Space is a hot topic too. So that's a growing market. How do you see this industry evolving, and what kind of opportunities does this present to you?
10 years ago, we considered space just to be part of aerospace. It was just, they were sort of all the same. And now it's its own niche.
Oh yeah, you did say aerospace, defense, space.
Space, right. But 10 years ago, they were all just one bundle. And now you can't do that. Space is exploding. There's more space work out there right now than there is aerospace work, which is staggering if you think about all the airplanes and fighter jets. But right now, the space...
Can you talk about any of it?
Sure. I mean, Blue Origin, SpaceX, they're the two major players. They're putting the rockets in the air, but there's companies like Firefly out there, United Launch Alliance. I mean, we can't get enough satellites in the air fast enough. SpaceX right now is launching a satellite every 3 days. I mean, and almost every one of those has disposable parts. So we're manufacturing parts that actually go to space and don't come back. And then some of the parts of the spaceship do come back. So we're building tools, but we're also building parts.
Does the team get excited that you're working on something so, it's mainstream, let's put it that way?
You couldn't have hit it better. Once we got into aerospace, when we built cars and, parts for cars and trash cans, and the guys, they were proud. Yeah. But then when we got into aerospace, boy, they wanted a patch that said they were working on the F-35 or the Boeing 777, and now most of those customers of ours have that. They know that people are proud to be working on it, so they'll give us stuff to give our guys. So their toolboxes have stickers or their coats have patches on them, saying I worked on the F-35.
Yeah, actually that's really good to help lift up manufacturing too,
it does.
Right? Yeah. That hidden...
And we can really push the American thing. I mean, we can push the pride in the USA because the defense product work has to be done in the US, a lot of it. Exactly. We're on a lot of programs that can't be built outside the US. So, thank God. So we're flying the flag. We've got the banners that show the fighter jets throughout the plant, and I think that most of the people are really proud of that.
That's awesome. All right, so let's talk about the company a little bit, because I know you've grown. It's private equity ownership. It's a lot of that going on. What has that been like, and how has it influenced the strategy moving forward?
It's been good for us. We've heard horror stories. I'm sure they exist. We were bought for the first time in 2016. The family that owned us, the children weren't interested in the business, and his option was to sell. That equity group owned us for 5 years. It was an amazing relationship. They doubled us in size. They really don't interfere with the business. They'll tell you they don't know what you do. But what they're really good at is helping you plan, helping you be lean, fabulous working with the banks. They sold us to a group in the middle of COVID, like at the beginning of COVID, the first 6 months. The company that bought us never even came to visit our facility because basically the country was closed down. We did everything through video.
Wow.
Yeah, we literally walked through the shop with phones. This company is different than the first company, but we're already 50% larger, and that was through COVID. I mean, they bought us literally at the beginning.
That's impressive.
What they bring is money. So they're big on equipment, they're big on innovation. Both companies were. So if we tell them, hey, we can get into a new market and we need this, they're more than willing to do that. The family business did it too, but it was harder because they were running on a smaller bank book. So in our case, it has been a wonderful experience. We're probably about to go through it again because the average company only keeps somebody for 5 years.
That's the formula.
Yeah.
So what do you see on the horizon? On the tooling side?
On the tooling side, I mean, our tooling business is growing at a steady 25% a year. There's no reason that'll stop. That's probably going to stay. Aerospace and space, but aerospace is evolving. I mean, now we've got all these unmanned, we've got drones, the eVTOL world with all these small helicopters. I mean, this is something no one thought of 15 years ago. And
so who knows what's coming?
Who knows, but there's going to be tooling for all that. The government's talking about a 6th generation fighter jet. I mean, a program like that will supply thousands of tool shops for 10 years to get that program off the ground. So we feel good about tooling. We don't see it going away. The equity groups has pushed us to diversify and do part machining, just to handle the little bumps in the market when you have them. And that's great, but they don't want to see us get out of the tooling market, nor do we have any desire to.
Got it. All right, on that note, thank you for sitting down.
Thank you so much.
Great
It was
story.
wonderful.
Talk
Thanks.
to you soon.